Welcome back to the channel. Today I have this Zebco 202 here. Picked this up at a garage sale. This one here is turning pretty stiff. There's probably a bunch of old grease in there, you know, that got hard and no longer doing anything. So I'm going to take this one apart, clean it up, get it working again, and get it back out on the water. Alright, well, let's dive into this one. It's in pretty decent shape. It's a small spin cast reel. We'll take the nose of it off here. A little bit dirty in here, not too bad. A little corrosion there on that nut, and get that all cleaned up. But take the nut off this handle right here. Get the handle off there, and then I can get the drive system out of the body. I'll put that in a parts tray. I like to use a parts tray to keep everything organized so I don't lose nothing. Okay, now with the handle off there, we can grab this and wiggle it out and come right out of there. Yeah, there's actually some corrosion, a little bit of rust, a little bit of old grease. There's kind of a combination thing on this. Let's get this apart and get it cleaned up. Right, next thing we'll do is we'll take this nut here off if it will come loose. Oh yeah. Take that nut right off there. We'll put that in the part. This piece just slides right off. That is part of the trigger. When this is and you're in cast mode, this freezes out. This here rides up onto here. This, as you can see, is got grooves on it. When you get over to a certain point, it pushes this off, which is allows this to set all the way onto the spool. And then that's these little ridges here what grab the line, pick it up, and spin it back onto the spool. Okay, take this clip here off, and that'll get the spool off of it. Use a screwdriver in here on the clip. It's just an E-clip. Be careful because these like to go flying, so I usually try to hold my thumb on it like that. Pop the clip out, put that in my front spin. Now we'll just kind of work the spool off of it. A little bit of dirt and corrosion in there. We'll get that all cleaned up, get it working. Next, we'll take this. Need to rotate this out from under here so we can pull that piece out. You see, you can turn it just like that, and now I can get it out of there. Oop, I'm still caught. Actually, I can rotate this one over. There we go. That'll work better. Now that'll come right up out of there. Yeah, a bunch of old grease in there. There's grease down there. We'll get that all out. And this here is what's actually the stiffest. It does not want to turn inside here. Probably corrosion, old grease, that type of thing. So this rail probably hasn't been apart in years. So let's get this main gear shaft out. And we'll get it cleaned up and get this thing going. I'm going to start working on this. Take and put a little bit of penetrating oil on there. Helps clean it all up. And I got this here Tri-Flow Superior Lubricant. It's penetrating oil and a lubricant. Works really well. It also works good for cleaning parts up. Spray a little bit of that on there, and that helps dissolve that old grease and get it softened up and off of there. Take a green scrubby from the kitchen sink here and use that to clean that all up, that corrosion and rust and everything off of there, and get that nice and shiny, and it will work in there again. Hey, that's pretty cleaned up. There's a little bit there that's probably not going to want to come off. I can get a little emery cloth on that. See, I don't want to use too coarse of an emery cloth. You don't want to take any real metal off of the shaft, as it'll end up having too much play. Just looking to get that corrosion cleaned off of there, so a little bit of rust. Oh, there we go. I'm going to hit this rest of this shaft here with this emery cloth. That's a lot better. I like that. Okay. Now we'll take and get this all cleaned up, get this gear all cleaned up, get that old grease out of there, and a little bit of this here again. I think everybody about started out on a Zebco. Zebcos are very popular, especially 202s. They seem to be everywhere. They're easy to find. A lot of them work real well still. There's a lot of them that are also like this that need to be taken apart and serviced. They're pretty reliable reels. They kind of stand the test of time because they're so simple. And we get this all cleaned up. What I like to do here is I'm going to put some penetrating oil in here. You can see all that old dried up grease, and in the teeth there's a bunch of it. I'm going to use a hard plastic brush to get that out of there. It won't do any damage to the gear. You can use a toothbrush if that's what you got handy. I wouldn't suggest using your wife's. She might not like that too much, but get this get the teeth all cleaned out there so it will work a lot better. See, it's getting all that out of there, and even clean all that grease out of the center there. Take and scrape this out here a little bit and just get it out of there. You want to get all that out of there. What'll happen if you don't is eventually it will flake off and end up getting into the gears and jamming everything up. Get a piece of paper towel here. I like to use paper towel and Q-tips to clean all this out. Clean it up real good. Some of these will have a washer or spacer right on here. This one doesn't appear to have that. It's not on the body or anything, so they use that to adjust the gear backlash on the between the main gear and the pinion. Hey, that's pretty well cleaned up. Let's set this over here for now. I'm going to clean this body up. Use a little more penetrating oil. I got some small brushes here. Work real well for going in these small ports here, pieces. You can pick these up at Harbor Freight. That's where I got them. They're soft plastic, so they just go right in there and get all that old grease out, and that'll make her spin real nice. Oh yeah, there we go. I'll get this old grease out down here and take the screwdriver and kind of scrape that off there. Yeah, this thing has not been apart in a long time. There we are. Get that off of there. There we go. Get that cleaned up. There, get that all off there. Again, I'm going to take these wire brushes or plastic brushes. You can see there's a bunch of crud down in there. It'll affect that drive gear. I'll take and use the same brush, about the right size for both of those holes, and get that out. And come on this side, clean this all out, and get as much of that out as possible, and Make her nice and clean. Be like a brand new reel when I get her cleaned up and done. Back together. Probably fish another 10 years without any problems. These are real reliable, like I said. There's not much to them. And you got to really do something to break these things. This here is the drag knob. It puts pressure onto the spool with this lever here. As you turn it, it pushes that lever down. You go back the other way, it brings it back up. Takes pressure off. Right there, nice and free now. Make it easier to get this thing back together if there's no pressure on that. That does not come apart. That's a rivet through there, so you can't really get this wheel off. So what I'm going to do is take a little bit of oil and put down in there. We can use this here penetrating oil. It'll penetrate down in on that shaft. We'll get a little up here and get some down into here, and that'll get that wheel freed up. It's not real stiff anyway, but a little bit of lubricant doesn't hurt. There we go, it is actually freeing up nicely. Sometimes you got to work these things a little bit like that. Let them sit and work them some more. Get that stuff down in there. Get this little bit of stuff off right here. That's not coming off too good, so I'm not too concerned about that. That's a little corrosion. It's nice and smooth, you know, scraping that screwdriver took all the high spots off of it. It's more of a visual issue. Something right down in there looks like an old fish scale. I don't know what that is, but I'll get rid of that. Out. A lot more down in here. I like to get as much out of there as I can. Makes it look like new again. Well, besides the color being, the plastic being discolored from age, but that's alright. That don't affect anything other than the looks. Okay. Alright, we'll get a little bit of lubricant onto some of these pieces here. Like get a little bit on there, put a little bit more onto there. I like to put just a touch on this here and I hope that stay nice and free. I like to also get just a little bit down in here on this where it touches that, where that wheel rides on it and pushes it down. Keep it lubricated, keep it from wearing. Get the excess oil off of here. Okay, about ready to clean up some other parts here. I'll put this over here, that's pretty good. That shaft is done. We got this spool. I'm going to get this string off this spool here. I'm going to pause the video while I do that. It's going to take a minute. I want to get that string all out of there, put some fresh on it. Alright, I got all that old fishing line off there, and I'm going to take and get this all cleaned up, get all this corrosion out of there. This is an aluminum spool, and they like to corrode. You can see all that white on there, so I'll get this grease off of there and use a little bit of penetrating oil, and that'll take that right off there nicely. Get my green scrubby. Like to get down in here and in there where it rides. The back side, or front side's pretty clear. That'll actually probably clean up a little better. These oils are really good for cleaning. Usually oil will take oil and grease off really nicely and get rid of all that crap. You know, it's almost shiny. That cleaned up real good. And get down in here so that the new fishing line will come off the reel real nice, or come off that spool real nice when you go to cast. Now, that corrosion will cause drag on that line, cause it to bind up and different things. We want to get as much of that out of there as we can. I'm going to use a new green pad onto there. A little easier to get it down in here and work it, so. Just clean her out like that pretty much. Get all that crap out of there. You want to be careful too. A lot of this stuff is landing on the table here. Parts of the green scrubby and then the corrosion and everything. You want to clean that up before you start greasing and assembling. You don't want to get any of that stuff in there. That'll cause you a headache also. Hit this again with this pad. Yeah, that's cleaned up real nice. Got most of that out down here. Looking at that, this looks pretty good. I'll get my light here. Shine down in there. It's hard to see down in there. Oh yeah, it shined up real nice down there. That'll make that line go down there, go on and off as you cast a lot smoother. Get you a little bit farther cast. Seeing just a little bit more of that stuff, so flip this over and get the new side. Okay, that's pretty good. Wipe that all off, get that dust and grime off of it. There we go. And look at that, that looks just like new. No, newish. I'm taking, clean the line catcher up here. Get that old grease out of there too, make it function like it should. You want to be careful not to knock the spring off on that piece. If you do, and sometimes it's hard to get them back on there and figure out what way they went. It's real good to take pictures on these when you disassemble them so you remember. If you don't remember how they are, you can go back and look at it. I have the aid of the video. If I have a problem, I can rewind the video and look on it and pause and go backwards and forward to see exactly what the issue is. This side's pretty clean. I'm gonna wipe that grime all out of there. Okay. Put just a little bit of oil down there so that that operates correctly and nice and smooth. It's releasing as it should. Okay, I'll set this over here. Now we got this piece here. This spool rides on it. The button pushes on this here. You can kind of see the spring collapse there as it pushes out. That's what pushes the line catcher out. Not moving the smoothest, but we'll get her cleaned up and get her working. You can also see all the old grease down into there. We'll get that all out with that brush. We'll start on one end and go to the other. Take and clean this up a little bit. I don't want to hit it too hard with the emery, just enough to get it broke up. And yeah, it cleaned up pretty nice. Okay. Get that down in there, let that soak on there. Weld this here. And now it's already moving better. And that'll help get all that grease broke up on there. I'll clean that all out, wipe it all out real good, and get that out. I don't usually take these springs off of here. You can get them off of there, but it's a fight sometimes, so do the best I can to get it out without removing that. Penetrating oil, my stiff plastic brush from Harbor Freight works real good. Just want to make sure to get all that grease out of them gears. Make it work so much better. Little chunk in there. Let's get my pick and dig it out of there. There we go. It's just hardened grease. This pick also works really well. Also another tool from Harbor Freight. I got this as a free gift. I'm one of their members to their members club, and that was one of the free gifts one month. Okay, that's looking pretty good, pretty clean, nice movement to it. Wipe it all off and we'll put it back in the parts tray until we're ready for it. Get all that grime off there. Okay, now we just got to clean out the body. Back here is some dirt you can see down in there. Get that all cleaned out. You don't want any of that getting into your gears. This penetrating oil will also help clean that out. Doesn't do anything for lubricating the plastic. There's nothing there to lubricate, but helps clean it out real nice. Also gives it a little bit of protectant too. I think that helps to keep it from building up a bunch of stuff, you know, dirt and stuff on it. Also, it helps a little bit with oxidation, not a lot. Don't really want this looking too new. I like the old, you know, used look on them. It's a vintage reel, it may as well look like it, you know. A little bit of patina don't hurt a thing. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Nice and clean down in there. Clean up the nose cone here, and you can use other cleaners. I don't like to use nothing too serious on it. You can get a little bit of degrease or that kind of thing if you want, but I find penetrating oil or even the 3-in-1 oil works real well. WD-40 is a really good cleaner. The any of them type oils, PB Blaster, that works real well also. The good thing is they put a little bit of a protective coat on it also and help to lubricate all the parts so they work freely and work correctly. Scrape these little paint drips off of here. Somewhere along the years, probably sitting in the garage that got painted. You never know. It's interesting to know the story on some of these, I guess. Okay, that's looking pretty good. No more dirt and stuff in there. I'll clean my table off here so I can get that stuff back into the reel. Clean this stuff out of my brush teeth there. All right, and we'll start reassembling. While we do this, we want to lubricate, look for any defects, any damage, anything like that. I kind of looked it over while I was cleaning everything. I didn't see any issues, so we'll be fine. Get my Q-tips out. I like to keep them in an old medicine container. That way I can keep the lid on, they stay clean, they don't dump all over the place when the container gets knocked over. Alright, get the grease up. I use Super Lube here. It's a multi-purpose synthetic grease. It is approved for saltwater use. I've used this for quite a long time. It works really good. It also is a very low viscosity. It does not thicken up and get stiff in cold weather. I believe it's good to like 45 degrees below zero. And I think up to, well, actually it says right here, let's see, 45 below up to 450 degrees. So that's quite a range. If you got this reel at either one of them, you got other issues. So let's get a little bit of this grease. I like to put just a little bit on this button. I might as well do that now so don't forget it later, where it pushes onto that shaft to cast out. Grab some of these parts here. This here, I'll grab this. I like to put a little bit of this grease. You don't need a lot, because if you put a lot, it is going to push out when you put the pieces into it. It just gives it a little coat, help make sure it's lubricated. I will be putting oil onto there also, but a little bit of grease does not hurt. And put a little bit there, right on there where the spool rides. Okay, just make sure I got them all pretty good here. Okay. Alright, first piece I'm going to put back in is the main gear. I'll put a little coating of grease onto the shaft here. Like I said, you can't put much because it'll just push all out. Like to hit this. This rides up against that plastic, gives it a little bit of slippery. Another thing I like to do is I like to fill the teeth with grease. That way it's got plenty of lubricant in there. I even hit that center. There we go. There we are. Okay. We'll take this. This slides right back into the body here. See how easy that went in? Remember how hard it come out? It come out real stiff. That's spinning real nice. Okay, the next one is the other shaft, which is this one here. I'm going to take and push that gear down. Get a little bit of grease down on that inside shaft there that gear sits on. Put a little bit here. I'll even hit the thread so that that nut don't get locked up on it sometime, get rusted to it, and never get it apart again. Put some back here where the spring is. I also like to push this little tab back here that holds that shaft into place if I can get it. Put just a touch in there just so that every little bit helps, I think. Okay. Get a little bit of grease in these gears. Don't need a super amount, it's just going to come out, but there we are. It's pretty good. And I'll stick and slide this into place. You want to remember to have this down here, this tab right here. Oops, I dropped it. That little tab right there needs to be into this groove here. So you need to line that up like that. And you bring this piece down. You can get that into there. Oops. There we are. Right into there like so. And this comes around over the top to hold it down so it can't pop out of place. And just like so. Okay, now come back on this side and put a little bit of grease on this where this rides. Actually, I already had some on there. Might as well put just a touch on there. This will also help keep the corrosion down. Now, the gears, or this side, the rigid side, was on the inside. That goes up. So this will ride just like this. Slap it right back on there. That is where the drag arm goes. Puts pressure on the spool to keep it from slipping, or takes pressure off to let it slip or slide. Got to turn that wheel back so that that arm is loose, so this will go all the way in. Okay, now we'll put our E-clip on that holds the spool on. I just put it started in there, and I'll take a screwdriver and push it on just like so. You heard that little snap? It snapped into place. I always like to look. You don't want that thing coming off there. It'll cause you a bad day of fishing for sure. Alright, now we'll put the line catch piece back on. I've already lubricated that. You seen earlier with the little 3-in-1. This has a flat spot over here, and this side's all round. This shaft that it rides on also has a flat spot, and the rest of it is round. So you want to make sure you line that up. That's the only way it's going to go on. And I'll push this shaft with my finger to get it to come out and make it a little easier. There, it's lined right up and right on there. And get your nut started back on there. Make sure to start it straight. You do not want to cross thread it. It will not go well for you. There, we got it started, and I'll take and see how this is out. This is in the cast position. When this turns, you'll see it drop down in. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it. There it is. That's what happens. Another line gets caught in one of those grooves, and that's how it gets wound up on the spool. Wipe some of this grease off of this part. I don't need to have it on the outside there. Well, a little bit of film will help keep it from rusting, corroding. So tighten this nut down. I have a socket set, but a lot of times a pair of pliers works real well. You don't need to over tighten that. Just snug it up. That's not going to come off there. If you get it snug, you don't want to over tighten it and strip the threads or jam it up. Okay. So this is all pretty much. I'm going to put just a little bit more grease onto these gears before I put it back in the body. Put right down into there. That just gives it a little extra down there. You don't need too much. You don't want a bunch of grease in there, but I like to have a little bit over. Now this drag wheel will fit right into this groove. This shaft here for your handle to go on goes into there, so you got to kind of line those up and hold that button out so that it doesn't bind up and not let you put this in. So you get that just like that, wiggle it around, and it slides right in just like that. See this? There's a flat groove here. Line up that too. That helps to keep that from moving around. Now I'm going to put the nose on it. Well, let's put the handle on first. Oh, a little piece of string on there. That was the price tag string right there. Let's get that off of there. Just grab my scissors and clip it. That'll take it off a lot faster than messing around like that. Come on. Well, seemed like it would have took it off a lot faster. Grab it with these and we'll get it off there. Here we go. Okay, take a little bit of 3-in-1 on these. These like to squeak. And they get a little bit stiff after a while if you don't lubricate it. Usually like to take my reels apart every year and clean them up right before the season or during winter if I'm bored. There, that's moving nice and free. Now this also you'll see has 2 flat spots and then 2 round spots. The shaft that it goes onto is the same way, flat spot and a flat spot. So you just line it up and it'll go right on. Take this nut, get this nut back on here. Make sure you don't cross thread it. And I'll hold the rotor and I will hold the handle to keep so I can tighten it up without it turning. That piece of strings. Okay. Now, when you push the button down, this pushes out. You got to hold this in because the nose holds that. Otherwise, when you push the button, it'll push the whole unit out. You push that down, and you heard that little click. That was that arm there going into the cast position. See, now it's up on top. And once you crank it, it drops right down nice and smooth. Working real well compared to when I first started. I could barely turn it when I first got this reel. So this thing's definitely ready to go back out on the water. Let's put the nose on. These can be a little bit tricky to get them straight sometimes. Sometimes they don't want to line up right, and I've had them cross thread on there a little bit. I usually don't go far. I usually catch it before. There, that one went really well. There we go. Take and wipe this outside, get a little bit of that oil off there and grease and such. You don't want it too slippery when you're using it. There we go. There, just like that. That works real well. And that reel's ready to be put onto a rod and get some string on it, some fishing line on it. I would probably run about an 8 to 10 pound on this. Of course, it all depends on what you're doing with it, but much more than that, it won't come off the spool real well. The clearances in here are pretty tight, so you want a light line, 4, 6, 8, 10 pounds, something like that. I don't think I would put anything heavier than 10 pound on it. It's not a super heavy reel. I don't think you're going to reel in a marlin or anything like this with this. You're more panfish, maybe a smallmouth or largemouth, something like that. Alright, well, that's all done. Get that one back on the water. Thanks for watching the video. Remember to like and subscribe. Trying to get one video out weekly, maybe more, just depends on my scheduling. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.